Okay, welcome back. And so in our previous segments, we've been talking about how do humans destroy soil. And so now what we want to talk about is what can we do to save our soil from destruction. So the first thing is cover the soil after the harvest, so that after you harvest your crops, all of that soil is just bare and there's no roots or anything that's holding it in the ground. So that means that if rain or wind were to come along, the soil could either be blown away or it could be washed away. So the idea is that after you harvest your crops, cover that bare soil with mulch or with grass or with some other kind of material, so that if the wind does blow, it's not going to blow the soil away. Or if it rains, the soil's not going to be washed away. Okay, now the next one is going to be called no-till farming. And so today, when we both when we plant our crops and also when we harvest our crops, we tend to use these big machines that are going to rip up the soil, and then it sprinkles the seeds, and then it covers up the seeds with the soil. But the problem is that that soil is now can be blown away, or that soil can be washed away before the harvest comes in. So instead of tilling, a different way of farming would be to make holes in the ground. So you have some kind of a machine, and as it's going forward, it makes a hole in the ground. It puts a single seed in the hole, and then it covers up the hole. And then it goes a foot, and it makes another hole. It fills the hole, and then it puts soil back in the hole. Okay? So this is much better because it preserves the root systems that are in the ground that are holding the soil together, so that the soil is much less likely to be blown away or washed away if you use this no-till farming practice. Then you could also have terraces. So let's say that you have a hill like this, and then you take your tractor and you're plowing downhill and planting your crops. Well, then what's going to happen is if it rains, all that soil is going to go downhill. So instead of farming on a hill, farm horizontally and have terraces. And then you can plant crops on the different terraces. And so then that way, when it rains, the rain will be more, or the runoff is going to be more horizontal than it is going to be going at an angle. So again, it helps to keep the soil from being washed away. Okay, the next thing is going to be wind breaks. And so if you have a very large open field and you have just finished harvesting your crops and the wind comes along, that wind can carry away the topsoil. So by having every 100 feet or so a hedge or some other kind of a windbreak, then that means that when the wind blows across it, the wind is not going to be as strong, so that means it's not going to be able to lift as much material. And if it does lift the material, it's not going to go very far before it piles up against that windbreak. The last thing is replacing carbon in the soil. So a natural way of doing that is by using earthworms. So as an earthworm burrows its way through the ground, sometimes it actually eats some of those minerals, and then it poops out fertilizers. So worms are a good way of reintroducing carbon back into your soils. And then also using fertilizers. Now we use a lot of man-made fertilizers, but you can also use just plain old-fashioned poop from either cows or You could even use human feces, and that could be used as a source of carbon that you could put back into the soil. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do the lesson quiz.